we'll start with a brief review of what we've covered to date and start talking about the final just a little bit. A couple new pieces for our paragraph. So, now our final is, I just referenced it. Sorry guys, give me one more second. Fair enough. I know we're running a couple minutes behind this morning. The shed will run Mondays. Particular Monday. Anyway. So let's talk about lab cards. Does anybody have a finished lab card that they have yet to submit? Go ahead and do that now, please. Bring that forward. It'd be appreciated. Let's see where the other ones are. Just go ahead and place it like that. Thank you. Kind of a fun brain teaser for you guys today. It's going to give you a little bit of an opportunity to show what you learned at the end of the class, hopefully. Get to it. And final exam. Let's see. Monday and Wednesday combinations that begin at 11 o'clock. Start at 10:30 on Wednesday, the 17th. Wednesday, 12. This room right here, where we are, at 11, 10:30? 10:30. 10:30.
So we don't come back to class on the 15th?
You do not. So Wednesday is the last day you'll see me. Let's talk briefly about what your final exam will look like. Okay? So, your final exam will be multiple choice. Okay? Fill in. It will be, let's see, possible true, false. It could include definitions. It could include explanations of what we've learned so far. Okay, so for instance, if I gave you a term and I asked you to explain what it means, okay, like simple sentence structure, you would tell me that that is what? What would you tell me if I told you what is simple sentence structure?
SVO.
There you go. You would explain that. You would tell me what SVO is. You would tell me how a subject and a verb and an object go together to create a basic sentence model. Fill in the blank, multiple choice. There will also be a component that is short answer, and you'll have a short, I'm going to say we'll call it a short writing sample.
That sounds like a paragraph.
Exactly. So we're going to look for you to try to figure out how to write an effective paragraph. And we're starting that again today. We're going to focus on that a little bit again today. But that's your final exam. That's the basics. you can expect it'll probably take you about an hour. Okay? So maybe an hour, and you must arrive at the correct time to be here to take the test. Okay, so 10:30. If you're a couple minutes late, it's not the end of the world. But if you don't show up, you can't pass the class. That's just how it's going to work. All right? You have to take the final in order to pass the class. And if you're not planning on passing the class because you've decided you didn't want to finish the labs, or because maybe you feel like you want to take it again, whatever your reasoning is behind that, that's fine. If you don't show up for the final, just assume that you will get a no pass if you decide not to take the final exam. But if you don't take the final exam, you will definitely get a no pass. All right? So that's the important thing to remember. So 1 hour, and here are the formats that you can expect to see. Okay? So let's review slightly for that, just to begin. So what is our review for the final exam? Well, we only have a week before you guys take the test. Actually, a week and maybe 2-3 days since it's on Wednesday. But we have worked our way up from the very basics. So the basics of writing to a paragraph. Okay, and this is new information. You want to write it down just as a review, so you know what it is that you're supposed to study in your notes. So the basics of writing to a paragraph. The basics of writing start out with what?
SVO.
Kind of, close, yes. But even subject, verbs, and objects are defined as a piece of that. So what is it specifically that we started out with?
A phrase.
A phrase, good, definitely. But what about what makes up a phrase? What do we call those?
Limited and complete.
Are you, let's see, are we having a conversation right now? Are we talking back and forth? We are. So we have to use something to create that speech. What do we use? No, parts of speech, you guys. Parts of speech. What do we use to connect? Speech. This is what we learned at the beginning. Parts of speech. Okay, parts of speech create communication. It's all right, it's Monday. So, parts of speech create communication. That's how we put them together. How we put them together. So, proper placement and choice of words. Okay. Proper placement and choice of words. Okay, so it's which words are we choosing? Where do we put them? So with basics of writing all the way to a paragraph, so parts of speech, communication, proper placement and choice of words. So that's vocabulary, if you remember. So you had a couple of assignments on that. And we're talking about parts of speech. So which specific parts of speech have we discussed so far? What's the first one? Huh?
Noun.
Good, a noun. Okay, noun. And how many different kinds of
Place.
nouns are there?
Place.
Right? That's person, place, or thing.
Pronouns.
No, that's not a type of noun.
Oh.
How many different
Proper.
types of nouns are there?
2.
2, there we go. 2 types. And there are proper nouns and common nouns, right? Okay, good. There's our first two. Okay, we know the definition of the noun. Right? It has meaning. Meaning is person, place, thing. Good. What else are we studying? We know that the simple sentence structure has another part in it. What if I'm going to introduce a noun? What word introduces a noun?
Article.
Limited and complete.
Okay, no. Limited and
Sentence.
complete has to do with the sentence. We're just working on parts of speech.
Article.
So which word introduces it? It's an article. Okay. An article. Good. So an article introduces a noun.
Like the.
Good. So an article introduces a
And.
noun. And it's like and, the, these are all articles. Good. And then once we have our noun, we've introduced our noun, we've got our subject, right? So these are all kind of connected in some way. So why don't we say subject next? We'll say subject. Is that a part of speech? No, that's a part of a sentence. Good. So we don't want to write that. So what do we want to do next? What comes next? Good. Verbs. 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 And we talked about how many different kinds? 3 different kinds.
Linking. Linking.
Action. Linking.
Helping.
Helping. Good. And what do verbs tell us, what do they tell us to do? How do they tell us to do? What is it specifically that verbs actually do for us?
What about adjective and adverb?
Right, we're not, that's good, those are parts of speech, but what do verbs tell us? They tell us something.
Puts it at a certain time.
Good. So meaning would be,
Tense.
there we go, tense, which is time and number. Right? Is that correct? Time and number, okay? You guys remember this stuff? Okay, no, just to review, just because we're going to revisit this each day, because I want you guys to do well in the final, all right? So if you see it now, it'll stick in your brains as it's closer to the final, okay? So, 3 types, action, linking, helping, meaning, tense, time, and number. So tell me about action. Give me an example of an action verb.
Jumping.
Jumping. Now, you use a tense there. What if I'm giving the original version of the verb, the infinitive? Remember the word infinitive? We learned that. It has to do with something.
Like will jump.
To jump. There it is. So to,
Like
added.
to be, would also be to be.
yes. Added to the main verb. So to, added to the main verb. Okay. To, added to the main verb does what? That creates what's called the infinitive. Okay. To, added to the main verb creates the infinitive. That's the word that we call it. When we have the main verb and the word to. What about helping verb? I need an example of a helping verb in its infinitive form.
Will,
Might.
is, are, and.
Will is one of them, but if I were to say to will, that doesn't make sense, does it? So what's the infinitive form of will? I will
Want.
to do what? To will? That is a form of to be, isn't it? He will, she is. Let's write to be. Or not to be. So here's our helping. What about our linking verb? This one's a little harder. Remember that one? Something. What were some of the words? To
Like,
like, to like with something.
Seems.
To seem.
No,
Okay, this has to do with senses, doesn't it? To feel.
And would that tend to end with the letter S? Do those verbs end with the letter S?
He likes, she seems. Yeah, that would work. Feels, that would be okay for the present tense. So what are our different kinds of tenses that we talked about? We had tenses. What are those? What tenses do we talk about?
Am.
What are they? Oh, what do we call them? There's right now. What do we call that?
Present.
Good. There we go.
Future and past.
Present.
So backwards.
Past. That's a little out of line, but that's okay.
It describes.
Future.
And
Now,
future.
when we use those types of verbs, what do? We change the ending on most verbs, don't we? So with common verbs, we change the ending. So what do I change the ending to do past tense on a common verb? Okay. ED, good. ED. So ED, another example would be ING, right? Jumping. Or S or ES, right? Okay. So that's how we change our verbs in order for them to correctly indicate time and number. Common verbs change with the ending. Now, sometimes if a verb is not common, it doesn't change at all. Is that correct? The word itself changes, right? So instead of he runs, it would be
He
he
ran.
ran. Good. So sometimes an entire word changes. You never know when that might be a true-false question. Right? See, I'm helping you out right there. True-false. Sometimes does a verb tense change the actual word itself? And you would say, true, it does. All right? Now we got our verbs, we got 3 types. What else did we talk about? We talked about objects, but objects are nouns, aren't they? Okay, so we've already talked about nouns a little bit. We talked about articles, talked about verbs. So what's missing up here? Adjectives and adverbs are missing, and something else. More specifically, what if I don't want to say my noun? What am I going to write? What if I want to replace it with something else?
Pronoun.
Here we go. A word that replaces
The main noun.
a noun. Somebody give me an example. Give me a word that's a pronoun.
They,
Good. They,
he, she,
he, she, it,
it.
etc. Good.
I.
Good. Good. So these are all terms that we learned, and these are all, again, parts of speech, right? All parts of speech. Okay. And then we said there was a couple other parts of speech. Good, an adjective. And an adjective does what?
Describe your noun.
It describes a noun. Again, just our review, let's brief, and then what about an adverb?
Describes the action.
Good, the action or the verb. Right? Answers questions, don't they? So what kind, how much, right? But this describes the verb. The adverb tells us more the questions of how and when, doesn't it? Maybe even where? No. How? How and when. And then we get into this where we go with our last parts of speech. What are the prepositional phrases? Prepositional. Prepositional phrases, which are a preposition and its object. So what about prepositional phrases? What do they do? What do they do? What are prepositional phrases? Go ahead, Sandra. Go ahead.
Yeah, a prepositional phrase would explain, like, in, in something,
How about where, why, when,
what,
exactly,
and who, I
so on
think.
and so forth. Right, so
Okay,
it answers
that's
questions, right? So it offers, really what it does, is offers the details of a sentence. Yeah. Okay, it offers the details of a sentence. Right? So here we are. So if we're going to offer the details of a sentence, we know that we have to add the pieces of a sentence together. So what are the pieces? And this is where we start to get to our form of writing. So what are the pieces of our sentence? Come on, we've been drilling this in your head. Subject. There it is. Okay, the important parts. Plus a phrase, right? We said plus one phrase is allowed, is that right? Plus one phrase, yeah? Okay. So, subject, verb, and an object is my simple sentence structure. Good. Simple sentence structure. Now, the subject is what? What does the subject mean? It's the what of the sentence, or the whole paragraph.
Your topic.
That's right. It's the topic or main idea of a sentence or paragraph, right? That's what my subject is. Okay, so it's the topic. The subject is the topic or main idea of a sentence, right? That's what we're talking about. So that's what we're going to, the focus, if you will, of our paragraph or our sentence, okay? Our verb is the action, and the object is who, or what is affected. Okay, so now we have our sentence.
Because the verb and the object have to tie together
Yes.
when describing the object.
Yes, good. So these are relative. These are relative. So that means that these two things, the subject, well, all of three should connect. They should all be relatives or related. Okay? Right? Related in meaning? Meanings connect. Sorry, that's really badly written. So the meanings connect. Meanings connect, okay? So the value, the meanings connect. Okay, meanings connect. All the words, they all have meaning, they all connect. Remember this? Yeah. And so that's how we decide, remember, because every time you guys have done a writing sample for me, one of the things that we've always focused on in my revisions of those writings is how the words connect. So am I using a single subject with a plural verb, or am I using a plural subject with a plural verb, right? So there's that number, goes back over here, remember? Time and number, is it correct? Subject-verb agreement. Is the verb in number connecting to the subject, or the word that indicates the movement, okay? I is, that doesn't work, right? I is, I am, right? Or they is, that wouldn't work either because that's plural and singular, isn't it? They is. So we know this to be true when we speak it, however, when we write it, it sometimes gets confused, right? So we gotta work on that. I'm gonna let you guys take this in for just 1 second and think about it for a minute. Just take a look at it because this is the information that's gonna come on your final. And then I want you guys to give me questions if you have any at this point about these particular things, okay?
I was thinking, didn't you forget to add one or two more?
What is it?
The conjunctions,
Ah, good
like,
point.
you
Good
know.
point. Yeah, we were just gonna stick with these good points. So we have a couple of points of speech.
And there was another one that started with S. Like
Subordinating conjunction. So we had coordinating conjunctions. Nicely done. Thank you for reminding me. I almost forgot these important things.
Glad I was trying to study.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. I forgot we went over these. So, subordinating conjunctions. So these are the connectors, right? This is when we have more than one SVO, right? So what do we know about coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions? What do we know about those?
Fanboys.
Nice, well done. Did you remember that? See, it sticks in your head, huh?
How can you not?
I know,
Who doesn't know about
fanboys.
fanboys? I mean,
I don't, but
for
that's okay to be here.
and,
So,
same,
for, and,
nor,
but,
or, yet, so.
nicely done.
Thank you.
Where does the comma go with a coordinating conjunction?
Before or after?
After?
Nope, goes
Before.
Oh,
before.
before, yeah, 'cause
Before.
it hasn't connected.
So comma
Doesn't it?
goes before
Is subordinating.
the conjunction. With this one. No, this is a coordinating conjunction. Right? Fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So, comma goes before the conjunction. Okay, now, each of these words has a meaning, right? What does the word and mean? So you've seen all this, you've seen all this, I want to make sure you've seen all this. We're good here? Can I erase that? Okay, let me give it a second then. We're going a little too fast, so let's slow down for a minute. Let's slow down for a minute.
And means in addition.
The phone thing just cracks me up now. People take pictures of notes.
I feel like I'm James Bond, taking pictures of classified stuff.
please don't take my face in there, the like facial recognition
Yeah,
software.
I took
I want to
pictures,
be like you.
I took pictures of skulls in anthropology classes, like, click, click.
Okay, so let's slow down for a second. Let everybody catch up with your notation or with how you're reviewing this. I'll give you a minute, okay? We're gonna just take a minute. Just gonna take a minute here.
Oh, yeah, this connector.
Ginger, maybe you could just grab this seat, pull it forward instead of.
Okay, I just didn't know what that one was.
Oh, you could ask, I
Connectors
can
from
tell.
back here.
Thank you.
Right.
Just don't block your face. Thanks. Okay, so let's go back to, we definitely got the first part here. We know this. This stuff you guys have got. Parts of speech, basic writing, you've got that. Let's talk about our conjunctions just briefly so we can get our rules down and make sure that we have the correct information, okay? Okay. So what are the examples of subordinating conjunctions, guys? You remember? Keep going.
Whether, while,
While, there we go. Whether, while,
after,
after. Good. Then a couple that we know more familiar, however. Therefore, whereas. Are there any
But.
rules around this? We have commas here, right? But where do the commas go? What if we have commas? What happens if you use a subordinating conjunction? What happens to the two clauses? We start out with what? We start out with an SVO plus an SVO. But when we add the coordinating conjunction, what happens? Let's say I go like this. SVO, however, SVO.
It joins the idea.
It joins the idea, but it makes one,
It stands by itself.
this one becomes dependent on the first. So, our second SVO is called a dependent clause. Okay? Our second SVO is called the dependent clause because it depends on the other one to make sense, right? However, you went to the store. It doesn't make sense. Unless you were to say, you ran out of a quart of milk, or you would say, you ran out of a quart of milk, therefore you went to the store. But if you were to walk up to someone and say, therefore you went to the store, doesn't make any sense. Right? That's how you know if it's dependent. If the word in front of it depends on the rest of the statement before it, in order to make sense. Right? You ran out of milk, therefore you went to the store. Now, what if I put, however, SVO, SVO? When you look at it this way, without all the words of the actual sentence, the SVO, what do you think has to happen? It's going to turn into a run-on sentence if you were to write that, wouldn't it? There needs to be a pause, doesn't there? Where's that pause go?
In between
That's
your
right.
zeros.
So your comma is a pause between clause. Sorry. Look, I'm a poet. I didn't even know it. Comma is a pause between clauses, okay? Dependent and independent. So this up here shows our rules for subordinating conjunctions. Remember that we went over this already. Just I'll review. You guys have seen all this. You've heard all this. Okay. So subordinating conjunction. This is different. This is different than a coordinating conjunction because with a coordinating conjunction, the conjunction adds things or joins things, joins ideas. Okay? Where in some senses, even though this is coordinating it, it's making one less than the other. Does that, you follow? It makes one less than the other. This, however, this. This, therefore this. So one is required for the other to exist. Makes one lesser than the other. Okay? Lesser than the other, so it connects. Okay, so that pretty much sums up, thank you for bringing those up, the coordinating conjunctions and conjunctions. But that pretty much sums up the parts of speech that we've covered and sort of encompasses the way that we create a sentence, right? And we went through this, we've had weeks and weeks of this, we've studied it, we've reviewed it, we've looked at it, we've done practice on it. So all that is good. And this leads us to our last piece of the puzzle. And that's what we've been working on the last couple of days. Okay? How do we put all these pieces here into something that makes sense? How do we put all these pieces here into something that makes sense? We have our sentence, and we have our simple sentence structure. Okay. So we have our sentence and we have our sentence structure. Okay, so maybe we could just get one person to take the pictures and then we could just send them all to each other. How's that? Is that okay? Cool. We can do that in class. All right. So we have our simple sentence and we are going to create a paragraph. Because one sentence isn't really going to cut it. You have to have a whole chain of ideas to do collegiate writing. Okay? So our simple sentence has a couple pieces. We know that it has the subject. And this is where, Sandra, you were right. You came in with two words saying that it must be something. It has to be limited and complete. Okay, that's what our topic sentence has to be. So, subject plus a controlling idea. Those are the pieces that you should remember for your topic sentence, okay? So a simple sentence to create a paragraph. And what's our paragraph begin with? It begins with a topic sentence. And a topic sentence has to have a subject and a controlling idea, and it has to be limited and complete. All right. So we have our topic sentence to begin our paragraph. And the topic sentence to begin a paragraph has attitude, it has subject, it has attitude, and it has a development of value, which essentially means why. Why, or importance. Why? What about the importance of this statement? Why should I care about this? Why should I write a whole paragraph about this? That's the real question here. Okay?
To show, like, the audience and, you know, the meaning.
Yeah, well, no. I'm not necessarily answering the question. What I'm saying is that the words that we use for the sentence, they will tell us why it is we should find this valuable. And that's how we write the sentence. So let's get down here where we said subject. Subject is a noun or pronoun. So now all of a sudden we can see the link. Our attitude is the verb and descriptive words. Okay? And the development of value has to do with our object and our phrases. Okay? So now we have the pieces of the puzzle that we already learned and how they fit into the overall idea of creating something solid that makes sense and filters through. Okay? So that's why we built it up the way we did. That's why we started with the basic brick of the bottom of the foundation was a noun and a verb and an adjective and all these parts of speech. We put them all together, and then they take meaning, they take shape. And the shape they take is a topic sentence. And in this particular instance, the topic sentence has a meaning behind each of the words that we utilized to effectively grab our audience, pull them in, and tell them why what we're talking about is important. But we know that we can't stop there. Our topic sentence is our first sentence. Our second sentence has to prove it. So we offer an example.
Like an example sentence.
Good. An example sentence. And this supports the argument, right? Not necessarily the sentence itself or statement made by the topic sentence.
Like its point, like it's specific.
Right. So the point or the development of value. The value of the sentence, we have to support that. It supports the argument or statement made by the topic sentence. And this has to do with the subject, the attitude, and the value. Which, if you look at it, all of a sudden relates to SVO. Just like we showed up here. Okay? So this supports the argument or statement made by the topic sentence. Right? So this is where we left off last week. Now, there are a couple different types of examples. One of the types of examples that we offered was called what? What kind of example?
Explanation sentence.
No, we're not there yet. What type of example? Specific example. A specific example offers us what?
Facts and figures.
Facts and figures. So information about one thing. One specific detail.
From
What event?
a topic sentence.
It's an example to support our topic sentence. So it might be about our topic sentence, but the example itself is a detail, okay, person, event, experience, that is singular. Can this take the shape of a quote? Yes, right? So this could be a quote. What else could it be? A statistic, right? What else?
Short story.
Could be an anecdote. All of these things are possibilities that we've looked at, right? As possible sentences of example. But the thing that matters the most about these is that they are specific, right? Specific details, specific quote, specific fact, specific person, specific location, one singular thing. Okay? Remember last week when we talked about rain and we said that it was in Salinas Valley, right, or Monterey County? That would make it specific because it was emphasizing one particular place. Okay. So I want to show you guys the second type of example. Okay. But before we do, let's talk about our explanation sentences. So once we have our second sentence, the example sentence, we have an explanation sentence. What does an explanation sentence do, you think? We kind of went over it a little bit, or it showed you a couple of examples, but didn't actually define it. What does an explanation sentence actually do, Brian?
You are relating your explanation sentence to your specific. You're giving it facts and figures why you're doing that to match up with the example.
Kinda, you're close. Kinda there. Yeah, I'm not giving any more facts and figures. I've already done that. Sandra, what do you think?
The explanation sentence tends to link the topic sentence and the example sentence.
Nice, well done.
Support.
There we go. It links or connects the More specifically, Sandra, not just the actual sentences, but let's go back to what we learned.
Idea.
Not the idea, it links parts of the sentence, almost down to the parts of speech. What parts are we actually trying to link?
Subject and object.
Good. But even more than that. Topic sentence.
The topic sentence?
Hang on. And example sentence. Now check it out. Let's say I have a subject in my topic sentence, my SVO, and my subject happens to be about rain. And then my verb happens to be destroys, and my object is hillsides. Okay, that's my topic sentence. Okay, just basic, simple, SVO, right? And then I have my example sentence. How about a recent downpour washed out let me think. Fry Hill. I don't know if there's a place called Fry Hill, but we're gonna just make it up for today, okay? Fry Hill's my expense. I don't want to say Hamburger Hill because that's a bad reference.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, but notice what I'm talking about here. Look what I did. When I say it links or connects the parts of a topic sentence in the example sentence, am I just linking the subject and the object? No, right? No, because look, I've got a downpour and that connects the subjects. Awesome. I've got hillsides, more specifically Fry Hill, but I also link something else.
Wash and destroy.
That's right. These are both negative. So I'm still linking those two. So my explanation sentence carries the attitude, the subject, and the development of value all the way through the paragraph. See that? Yes? Question? No? Okay, we have to learn a couple of different kinds of examples. Let's take a quick break and come back at 12 o'clock. If you have your lab cards complete for some reason, you did not hand it in, or you came late, I will take it down.
I got you too. Oh.
Now I gotta take the final test. I got 8 of them wrong.